Good evening and welcome to our June Committee of the Whole meeting. We're delighted to have you with us this evening. The Board of Trustees of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District is now convened in the Committee of the Whole meeting on Thursday, June 22nd, 2017, in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, 10300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m., for the purpose of reviewing that portion of the Monday, June 26, 2017, school board agenda designated as action items and to hear designated reports and recognitions posted in the meeting notice as required by Texas law. No action will be taken at this meeting. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of our superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve any concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on CFTV Channel 16 and CFTV Online on the district website. They will also be rebroadcast throughout the month on Channel 16 and available as video on demand on the website. For the tape to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that your cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. Do I have any members of the CLC with us tonight? How about Boy Scouts? Well, we do have one very special guest in the audience. I'd like to introduce my mom, Evelyn Whitehorn, visiting from New Jersey. She's right there. Wave, Mom. I made her come to the meeting for just 30 minutes. She gets to go home after that. All right, we're going to start with our recognitions, a special recognition. 1A, the board will recognize students from the Cypress Springs High School, Cy-Fair High School, and Langham Creek High Schools who have achieved state honors in track, and students from Cypress Falls High School and Cypress Ranch High School who achieved state honors in tennis. Ray Zapeta, I think, is going to be presenting. All right, I'm sorry I didn't see you, Ray. The floor is yours.
Okay, there we go. Anyway, I don't think it gets too much better than this to be able to come and end our athletic season by recognizing some very talented athletes. So I'm going to start off, Mrs. Mongoya, Board of Trustees, Dr. Henry. It is my distinct pleasure to be here tonight representing our athletic department and these young people. This would be to honor our outstanding performances at the state track meet and the state tennis tournament. I stood in front of you in April and thought that maybe we were finished and didn't quite realize that we would have to kind of come back and do this tonight, but I'm so proud to do that. I'm going to start off with honoring the Cy Springs girls track team, and we've got two team members tonight. We've got Essence Sample and Tiffany Mack with us. Ladies, could you come up here to the front? They were part of a 400 and 800 meter relay team that finished in second place at the state track meet. And their 400 meters started the 6A portion of the state track meet. They ran a blistering time of 45:07, which is, from what I understand, one of the fastest times I think that they've ever run. Is that right, Coach? So just a tremendous, tremendous time. They also followed that up with a silver medal finish in the 800 meter relay and ran a 1:35:53. I would say, and this has become almost a yearly tradition for me to stand up here at this time of year and to extol the virtues of the Cy Springs girls track team. Not only are they talented young ladies, but they do things the right way. They're great students. They're great people. We've got their coach, Raquia Gibson. And Coach, I'm going to ask you to come up here into the front with these two young ladies and get a picture of you as well. This is the 4th year in a row that they finished in the top 3 in the state. And there's really no other girls track team in the state of Texas that is performing at this level. So again, it's my distinct honor and pleasure to be here tonight and present to you Essence Sample and Tiffany Mack. They're both seniors, so they'll both be leaving us. Oh, sophomore. I'm sorry, Tiffany. Excellent. Okay, and that's why I was asking her earlier, what are you going to do next year? And she's looking at me, well, I don't know. I do know that Essence will be attending the University of Houston on a track scholarship, so we're glad to send her off from us, but she's here where we can watch her compete. So again, we look forward to seeing the 2018 edition of the Cy Spring Girls Track Team, and Tiffany, we look forward to seeing you as well. Thank you. I would say this is the first year Coach Gibson has beat me here to the board meeting, so we'll see what happens next year, Coach. We're now going to transition to a competitor in the 200 meters from Cy-Fair, Edward Sumler. And Edward could not be with us tonight. It's sometimes difficult to properly recognize these kids once we get to the summer. They're doing things that I never did in the summer and going places. Edward, I think, is competing in a national track meet. But I do have his coach, Jimmy Reese, here. Coach Reese, I'd like to bring you up here so I can say some good things about you and Edward. Edward was a junior at Cy-Fair this year, so the best part about this is that he will be coming back. You can see him right there, and he actually competed as a wild card, which meant that he did not qualify as one of the. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Okay, finished second in his race, ran a blistering 21:01 to finish in 0.03 of a second behind the gold medal winner. So that's pretty darn fast. And I think Coach said he thought he won, but he was running out of the last lane, so very difficult to see. Again, Coach Reese is here, and I was thanking him for being here, and he said, well, Coach, I've been here many, many times before. And I said, this is probably old hat to you. But again, we're very proud of Edward and the fact that he's coming back, and Coach Reese mentioned to me that we have a lot of juniors from Cy-Fair on the boys track team coming back that perform quite well, so we're very excited about their performance. And Coach, thank you very much. All right, and then we're going to transition now to Langham Creek 110-meter high hurdler Eric Edwards. And Eric was a gold medalist at the state track meet. Again, he is performing in a national meet right now. Eric had a tremendous season. He was dominant pretty much the entire year in both the 110s and the 300-meter hurdles. He ran a very fast 13.39 seconds, covering that 110, going over those high hurdles. Again, best part about it is Eric will be back along with a number of his teammates next year. I do have his Coach Walt Yarrow. Coach, I'd like you to come up here to the front. Brag on Coach a little bit. It had been a long time coming before Langham Creek won the district championship last year, and they won again this year, with a lot of kids coming back next year. So again, want to honor Eric, and I know that he couldn't be here with us tonight, but just an incredible season, and we look forward to see how he caps this junior season. Thank you, Coach. Okay, and I would say I'm going to transition to tennis court. This was probably one of the most outstanding tennis seasons that we've had in a long time. We had 3 groups go to the state tennis tournament this year from Cypress Ranch and Cy Falls. And I'm going to start with our duo from Cy Falls, senior Riley Braden and sophomore Polina Radchenko. They marched all the way to the finals of the state tournament in the girls doubles division, winning 2 tough matches, and they got to a tough third match and lost in 3 tough sets. So again, a very exciting tennis tournament with them. Riley also, again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the second time that you've medaled at the state tennis tournament, correct? So she will be leaving us to attend Eastern Washington University and playing tennis. And we're lucky enough to have, like I said, Paulina back next year. She'll have to get another partner. I know both of their moms are here, very proud to be here, and I'd like you guys to stand up to be recognized, because I know that there have been a lot of tennis practices and lessons, etc., and we can give them a round of applause. Again, very proud of both Riley and Paulina. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I know the finals were an exciting time because the way that I understand all of this is that Polina and Riley were playing on one court and Melissa and Varun were playing right next to them. So I think for those of us that were interested in Cypher ISD, there was a lot of back and forth watching. But at this point, I'm gonna recognize our state gold medalist in the mixed doubles, Varun Thatchell and Melissa Lamette. Obviously, Melissa's by herself tonight. Varun could not be with us. He's in Europe right now, again, doing things that I don't get to do. But these kids just had a great season. And again, best part about all of this is that Melissa is a sophomore and Varun is a junior. So they will be coming back in the best in the state. They kind of breezed through really their bracket and ended up winning in the state finals, winning 6-4 and 6-2 in the finals against another Houston area team from Clearbrook. Again, Cypress Ranch had a tremendous season this year in tennis, both in the team tennis season in the fall and the spring tennis season, and we look forward to seeing what they accomplish next year. I know that Melissa's mom is here, and I'd like her to stand up, and also Dad, her whole family, if you guys could, and little brother, and Coach, Min Fon. And again, Coach Fon has run an unbelievable program there at Cypress Ranch, and we're really proud of what he's done. And before I close out, thank you, Melissa. Before I close out, I would say, because I was totally remiss before I finish here, going back to Riley and Polina, I have assistant coach Desmond Thomas here. Desmond, if you could stand up. Desmond was the assistant coach this year at Cy Falls. And the head coach was Lee Joyner, who is now retiring, and Desmond has been promoted to be the head coach at Cy Falls. So again, this kind of concludes our athletic season. I know this is a work session for you guys. I'm sorry for taking time, but again, what a night for us to come in and honor some true champions, and I appreciate all of the support from the board and you, Dr. Henry, for what we're doing. Thank you so much.
Please don't apologize ever for us taking time to recognize students. That's one of our favorite parts. I know I would speak for everybody on the board. And frankly, I don't think Melissa got a round of applause, so let's give her a round of applause. Now, I know that you ladies and your parents, some of your parents and coaches are here, and if you needed to slip out, we would not object at all. We do understand you have very busy schedules, so you don't have to wait till the end of the meeting, which could come in a little while.
Except for Mr. Zapata, he needs to stay.
Yeah, well, he's going to talk to me.
He wouldn't listen.
All right, and then there are other recognitions we will do a Monday evening. That brings us back to our agenda item on public hearing. And we will hold 2 public hearings on Monday, June 26th. The agenda item is 2, public hearing. A, the board will hold a public hearing on the adoption of the 2017-18 budget, and that will be the very first thing on Monday. And B, on Monday right after that, the board will hold a public hearing on the Children's Internet Protection Act for internet filtering and internet safety. So we look forward to those hearings on Monday. Our next item agenda is reports. The item is 5. A, the administration will provide a written report of the School Health Advisory Council's annual activities, and that is questions only. We've had an opportunity to look at that. Would anyone have any questions? Mr. Covey?
Is that on? I'm sorry. No, it's very simple, and I'd just kind of like for you, if you will, I know we're familiar with it, but do you mind explaining about the gardens, the ready-to-grow gardens that we're doing?
Crawford. It's really, yeah, I'm going to let him enjoy this with me. It's really something that Food Services Department has a bigger hand in. I know that we've worked through the shack and with some parent advisory councils and another community partner.
Yeah, so we have several of our elementaries have very good gardens out there. A lot of them, the PTO or the school has used activity funds to contract with a group called Ready to Grow Gardens. It's a local company run by a lady
here in Cypress, Stephanie Baker. And Stephanie puts together curriculum for the science teachers to actually use in conjunction with what's being grown in the garden. This year, we made a push in food service to actually go out to that school or those schools and kind of close the loop and use some of the stuff the kids are harvesting to actually prepare some food for them. And it was very successful. It was, weird to see kids clamoring and asking for seconds on kale chips. But it was awesome. And it does kind of close the loop of them being out in the garden and being active, learning about gardening, learning from an educational standpoint, and then learning some of the health benefits of the stuff that we're doing. So we're working with Stephanie, and then we're also looking as a food service department next year to maybe adopt a garden that can't, that doesn't have a parent organization to contract with someone and hopefully do some more work with that. But that's a big focus for us.
I just think it's awesome, and I will tell you that I went to Hamilton Middle School this year, and they were having a dinner or a lunch, and it was all coming from their garden, and they'd processed the entire lunch from what they'd grown in the garden, and I just thought that was a tremendous idea. I'm glad to see it's spreading throughout the district. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, you don't need to come up for this one. I have a question offline, and on Monday, if I think the question is worthy enough, I'll go ahead and bring it out and make it online. So I would merely ask that we not move this to consensus. Thank you.
So this is a report, so it won't be on the consensus agenda anymore. You can ask any question you want on Monday if you need to. Any other questions? Because I'd like to see, Ms. Gordon come up one more time. I'm just giving you a hard time. All right. On B, the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD is submitting the district's name to be considered for participation in the Texas Education Agency's Special Allotment Monitoring Program pilot. Any questions on this item? We've received information on it. All right, that concludes our report section. Let's move to our action items. The first thing we're going to look at is our consensus items. 6A, the board will consider approving the tax refunds of $500 or greater for Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. Any questions on that item? Can that item stay on the consensus agenda? Great. B, the board will consider approving the minutes of the May 15th, 2017 regular meeting. Any questions on that item? May that item stay on the consensus agenda? Very good. Let's move to action items non-consensus. A, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 1, art and miscellaneous school supplies. 2, condenser and cooling tower cleaning and disinfection services. Desktop computers and monitors. Dry grocery. 5, excess workers' compensation coverage. Frozen and refrigerated foods. 7, fruits and vegetables. 8, janitorial paper and soap products. 9, Medicaid and student and health-related billing services. 10, office supplies. 11, portable building walkway canopy installations. 12, processed produce. 13, RFID cards. 14, school buses. 15, school liability, privacy, and information security, and automobile insurance renewal. 16, software license and maintenance renewal expansion. And 17, vending snacks. 18, whole produce. And that concludes that item. Any questions on any of those items? Ms. Blackshear?
I would just want to note that items 7A4 and 7A6 and 7A7, dry grocery, frozen and refrigerated foods, and fruits and vegetables are contracts were being awarded to a company my son works for.
Okay, so you
So-
would like to pull those from that?
Yes.
And I know I ask this every time, Ms. Sims, but we can pull those particular parts of it. No?
No, yes, you can. We'll just redo the motion.
Okay, so we can pull those particular items out of that and move that to non-consensus?
We just need to redo the item.
Okay, all right. Any questions, Mr. Ryan?
This is probably for Stuart. I noticed on number 5 that we got a 39.8% reduction on our workers' comp premium. And just want to tell you, what's that? I mean, the total bid's over $200,000, so that seems to be pretty substantial. So I just want to comment that you guys did a great job on this. Anytime we can save money is greatly appreciated. So I just want to commend you and your staff for this.
Mr. Covey, do you have a question?
On the RFID cards, just who is that? Hi, Matt.
Or Bevan, I can't remember.
Bevan, you just want to come back up for fun? On the RFID, are they now throughout the district and every school's got them?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm going to just say that from the perspective of a grandparent hearing my sons and their wives talk about how wonderful those are, and to actually be able to see where their kids are in transit and are wherever, and it's just awesome, you know. So thank y'all so much for doing it. I know we trotted them out maybe 2 years ago and tried a few and then kept on going. So thank you. It's a great idea.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jackson?
Roy, on item number 14, school buses, the information's already contained in our packet, but I just wanted to ask the question. Are the buses equipped with 1 seat belts, 2 cameras, 3 some type of GPS system?
Will answer that question.
The buses are equipped with cameras and they're equipped with the GPS system. They are not equipped with seat belts.
Just a question on the seat belts. Austin, from time to time, always kind of rallies around that.
Oh, yeah.
Does it ever make sense for us to be proactive to add those? Or is it a case that if we add them, we have to add them to the entire fleet?
Well, that's a good question. Senate Bill 693 was just signed by the governor and it's effective September of 2017 for any buses purchased after that. It won't be retroactive. It'll be for any bus 2018 or newer purchased after September of 2017. So I know that Mr. Powell and his team are looking at that. Obviously, there are some logistics with having seatbelts on the buses, with the routes, and what Senate Bill 693 essentially says is that when we make a recommendation in the future for a bus purchase, the board will have to determine whether or not we get seatbelts or not. And if the board determines that it does not fit in the budget, they can publicly decline to get seatbelts. Mr. Powell and his team are still working through what they would recommend on the next batch of buses.
Thank you for accurately anticipating the question. As Stuart reminds me, I never asked the question I intend to ask. So you did a superb job of answering the hidden question, so thank you.
Thank you.
Another question in that vein, Matt. Will there be 2 or 3 seat belts to a seat then?
That's kind of some of the things we have to work through, because when you look at the way a school bus is designed, I mean, we may say it's a 72 passenger, but it's based on the shoulder width of a student at about 18 inches. So that's some of the things we have to work through, because our high school students, obviously, we don't put 3 children in a
Right.
seat. So if you put 3
Right.
seat belts, you know, we want the buses to be able to be utilized for all grades, because we service the same elementary campus, high school, and middle school campuses with the same buses. So those are some of the things that,
Okay.
as a transportation department, we're going to need to work through.
Thank you.
Dr. Ogletree?
Let me join the inquiry tonight. And I guess this is to Stuart or Matt, on our liability, school liability. We get this through Texas Association of School Boards. Do we have any negotiation power with them, or is this just we just have to take whatever they give us? And is this what we're doing this year? Is this the same as what we paid in the previous year?
Yeah, we solicit proposals from various providers of liability insurance, and TASB is our current provider, and they also respond to that. And so we have selected them to continue with our professional liability and school liability. This also includes our auto insurance as well.
Okay. All right.
So do we want to move the items that are not,
President Mongoya?
you have another question?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I
Go ahead.
proceed?
Sure.
Thank you. Item number 16, software license and maintenance renewal expansion. I made multiple trips to our Read 180 campuses, speaking with teachers, but more importantly, I had the opportunity to speak with the students even while they were munching pizza. And what I heard over and over again was I would ask each one what they liked about the program, and what they all came back to is they appreciated the software. And I asked them specifically, did they believe that it enhanced their reading and comprehension? And they did. As it turned out, the provider was there on 2 of the trips that I made, so I was able to chat with them. Would you comment a little bit, Linda, about the line item that we have here, because this is the largest line item on the renewal?
Mr. Jackson, as you know, we've had Read 180 for quite a while, and it is our what is one of our reading interventions that we use at both elementary and also at secondary. And every so often, the company upgrades their system, and basically the upgrade right now is to be in line with the new standards. So at middle school, and let me just add that we did a pilot last year with the upgrade at middle school, and then we did a couple of elementary schools to see whether that was the best one to continue using, or whether possibly we needed to look at something else. And so for middle school, we're very satisfied with the data that we've gotten and the improvement in reading with the upgrade to the universal. So that's why that number is so large, is because we've moved to the upgrade for the middle school. For the elementary, we're still, I still don't believe I have everything that I need to determine whether we want to continue with the Read 180, or whether we might want to go with the Achieve 3000 in a more expanded role. So we're going to continue the pilot one more year, and then make that decision with the data.
And I want to say thank you for being data focused on making these decisions. When you bring them to the board, it means we can rely upon the fact that you've looked at it, you've analyzed the data. And I'd like to focus on a comment that you made. You did, in fact, look at the efficacy of an altogether different program. And once again, you're coming back to us saying, this is the program we want. I do have a follow-up question. There are certain districts that believe in the concept of using multiple different programs, as many as 7 or 8 different programs to accomplish the same specific task. Our business model is we basically have one program, correct?
Well, we have different systems that we use, but for our true intervention for reading, it's the Read 180 that we're using, and you use a word that's very important, it's that fidelity. So we're making sure that we're using it the way it's supposed to be used so that we can get the outcomes that are intended.
Excellent, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Any other questions on any of those items? So do we want to move a portion of this to consensus, or do we want to leave all of it in non-consensus? Yeah, I think. Look, all right, so we'll separate those items. And how does the board feel about consensus for the items that, other than the ones that Debbie would like removed? Are there any questions about moving any of those to non-consensus? All right, so items 7A, 4, 6, and 7 will be moved to non-consensus. The other items will go to consensus. All right. B, the board will consider approving the budget amendments for the period of April 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2017. Any questions on that item? Mr. Jackson?
This question is really for Stuart and Roy. One of the largest adjustments in the budget amendment has to do with repair and maintenance cost. And the question I have is, are we deferring these expenditures, or is this merely where we had set aside funds and we did not have need to use them during the allotted time period?
Yes, I can answer that. We are not deferring funds. We are not foregoing any deferred maintenance that was projected or at least planned on during the course of the year. These are funds that basically are just not needed in that function level. Many of our fourth and final budget adjustments are to adjust function level budgets that should more closely align with what our projected end-of-year expenditures are going to be. And so this is one of those cases where we're adjusting that budget and then transferring those excess funds to another, excuse me, to another function level somewhere else in the budget, so that we are ensuring that as we close out the fiscal year, that our actual expenditures do not exceed our function level budgets in those areas.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we want that item to go to consensus? Mr. Jackson, okay, if that goes to consensus. Good. C, the board will consider a resolution approving the district's investment policy and investment strategy, the investment officers of the district, and the independent sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities for the investment officers of the district and investment training hours. Any questions on this item?
The information is already contained in the packet, but I wanted to ask as a matter of record, who is our designated investment officer, and are our legally required quarterly reports up to date?
We have 3 investment officers, including myself, Karen Smith, and our treasurer. Karen can answer our annual requirements for investment training.
Sorry, what was the last part of that? On the investment training,
Yeah,
about the hours?
What's our annual requirement for that?
Every 2 years, we have to have 8 hours of investment training. If somebody's new to the job, they have to have 10 hours of investment training. But it's every 2 years. So there's another year to get the remainder of that training.
And then the final question is, we have reports that are required to be prepared on our investments, and are those reports up to date?
Yes, sir. We have to prepare quarterly reports on the investments, and the next one will be, of course, the June 30th one.
Yeah, and as you recall, as each quarterly investment report is prepared, we send a copy of that report to the board through the Friday packets when they're available.
Very good, thank you.
Any further questions on that item? Do we want to see that move to consensus? All right, we'll move C to consensus. The board, D, the board will consider approving a list of qualified financial institutions, brokers, dealers, and investment advisors that are authorized to engage in investment transactions with the district. Questions on that? Dr. Ogletree?
Stuart, these brokers, dealers, and are they the same brokers and dealers that we've used in the past, or are there any new ones on our list this year?
Yes, sir. We are actually adding a couple of broker dealers. We're adding Hilltop Securities and RBC Capital Markets, and we are removing from the list that we used during this year 3 firms. One is Bank of America, another is Coastal Securities, which merged with FTN Financial, and as you can see on that list, FTN Financial remains as one of our broker dealers, and then we're also removing Wells Fargo.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Marty, the same question as before. I may be slightly over the limit, and it needs to be reported with respect to ownership position in Raymond James and Associates. It's a technical issue, and we aren't quite certain if it needs to be reported, but I would prefer to err on the side of caution. So if your office could send me that form so I can complete it with the required information, and then I'll send it back to you, and you do with it whatever needs to be done with it.
I do file it in the appropriate places, but yes, you just need to lose some money in your portfolio, and you won't have to.
That doesn't sound like a good idea at all, does it?
I'll do the paperwork then.
Any other questions on that item? Can that be moved to consensus? Mr. Jackson? E, the board will consider approving a resolution for the commitment of the district's fund balance. Any questions on that item? No questions? Can that be moved to consensus?
I kind of like that to stand by itself.
All right. Let's not put that. E will not be on the consensus item. It'll be non-consensus. F, the board will consider the adoption of the 2017-18 budget. Now, we are going to have some information on that on Monday. Do we want to talk about that at all today? Because I don't think that should be on the consensus.
We are making a presentation Monday evening with respect to the public hearing. So,
yeah. Any questions tonight for Mr. Snow? All right. And that will be on non-consensus. G, the board will consider approving board members to serve as delegate and alternate delegate to the 2017 Texas Association of School Boards Annual Delegate Assembly. And I'd like to recommend that that be non-consensus. And I'd like to recommend that Christine Hartley continue as our delegate and Dr. John Ogletree as our alternate. So we'll... I checked with her first. I did check with her. And so that won't be on consensus. H, the board will consider approving the 2017 Harris County Protective Services interlocal agreement with the Harris County Protective Services for Children and Adults to provide community use services for students and families in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. Any questions on that item? You want to say something?
I'm gonna make a comment.
Okay.
Whenever y'all are through.
Okay.
Just, before y'all decide whether to put this on consensus or non-consensus, Monday is going to be Darlene Davenport's last board meeting in her role, so I'd rather y'all either grill her tonight or Monday night. I don't care which one, but I did want to, because this agenda item is put together by Darlene, I did want to thank her for all of her years of service in Cy-Fair ISD and tell her how much we appreciate you. So, thank you.
So what is our pleasure on that item? Consensus or non? Consensus, okay. All right. We do appreciate your service. Thank you so much, Ms. Davenport. The board will consider approving the issuance of career and technical education local teaching permits to applicants in lieu of standard teaching certifications as established in House Bill 2205. Any questions on that?
President Mongoya, will you allow me to just elaborate a little bit on this agenda item? There are areas in our CT course offerings that we have difficulty finding teachers because of the required certifications. So as you mentioned, House Bill 2205 provides an opportunity for school boards to approve the issuance of local teaching permits to applicants in place of the standard teaching certificates. This will provide us opportunities to search for truly the best candidates beyond those found in the traditional teacher educator preparation type programs. So for programs such as the construction trades like the electrical or HVAC or plumbing or the audiovisual production, welding, automotive technology, just to name a few, we have a hard time finding teachers. So this will certainly open the pool up a lot for us. However, I just wanted to make sure to note that the state does have requirements, though, regarding this, specifically in the wage earning experiences in these areas, and then also licenses and requirements and certificates specific to these different areas. So I'm going to give you an example. So, for example, in the construction trades, let's take electrical. In order to obtain a local teaching permit, the state is going to require that the applicant at least have 5 years of full-time wage earning experiences within the past 10 years as an electrician, if that's what we're looking for. And if this applicant possibly taught a class at maybe a technical institute or a community college, that would also count as experience there. And then they would also have to have their current certifications as a journeyman electrician or master's electrician to even be able to be considered for the local permit. So there are requirements that the state has in place, even though the board would be voting for a local type of permit. And then also just to note that the local permits are just for Cy-Fair, so they don't move on with the teacher to another district.
Thank you. Any questions after that clarification?
And maybe you said this, Linda. I'm not sure I heard it. I'm sorry, I was reading. I can't do two things at once. So, but on this, and we kind of talked about this before, you are developing your own evaluation of these teachers that you're going to implement in each one of these areas, right?
There's criteria that we have to meet, and then with HR, we'll work together for how we would process all this.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Dr. Ogletree?
My question, Linda, precedes evaluation. There could be someone who very knowledgeable, let's say in construction or electrical field, but when you're teaching or working with students, will we do any type of orientation on working or presenting with students?
Absolutely, Dr. O. We would provide training and support with classroom management, training and support with best practices with delivering instruction.
I've worked closely with curriculum on this, on the provisions, and the law requires that, Dr. O. And just as Mr. Covey mentioned, there are the minimum requirements, then we're going to have the Cy-Fair requirements. And so we will be very selective in the individuals that we bring to you for the local teaching permit. And then, of course, we will train them and support them like we do any other person that we put in the classroom with our kids.
Any other questions on that item? Would you like that to go to consensus?
You gotta stand alone.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, I will be non-consensus. J, the board will consider approving the district instructional material recommendations for the career and technical education courses. Dr. Macias, do you have a statement about that one?
No, Madam President, this is just, again, purchasing our different resources for our CTE classes.
That item, Mr. Jackson?
I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. This district has the philosophy when it comes to CTE instruction that we want to provide instructional materials that meet current industry standards, so we're preparing our students for the jobs of today and tomorrow and not for the jobs of yesterday. Do these instructional materials meet that overriding philosophy of the district as supported by the school board?
We do believe so, Mr. Jackson. We very thoroughly review all the materials that are out there for each of these areas. We have a committee that include our teachers, and we look at what the industry standards are, and that's what guides us in the selection of the books and the technology.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The consensus? Okay. All right, that will go to consensus. And K, the board will consider approving a request for a Texas Education Agency expedited waiver to modify the timeline for accelerated instruction. Any questions on this item?
Got one.
Mr. Kobe?
Dr. Macias, after we do this accelerated on the third test, and it says that they will have the accelerated learning the first 6 weeks, are they then, if they accomplish everything, are they promoted to that next grade they were supposed to go to, or will they stay in the grade that they have retained?
This is a little different. We have our grade placement committees that will determine whether the student will be promoted or placed into the next grade level. But part of the law requires that after the third administration, if our kids are not successful, that we provide this accelerated learning instruction to just prepare them and get them ready for the whatever course they're going to be taking, and whether it's math or reading. The reason we ask for the waiver is because the time is so short from the time they take the third administration to the end of the summer. So our waiver is to allow us to do it as soon as school starts.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Would you guys like to see this in consensus?
Yes.
All right. That will move to consensus. L, the board will consider approving the attached list of students for off-campus physical education Category 1 for the 2017-18 school year. That's the school year that begins in the fall. Any questions on this item? Mr. Jackson?
Just for my own personal edification, we only apply for Category 1. What is the rationale why we just apply for Category 1 and not also for Category 2?
You're absolutely right. We typically, our practice has been to apply to Category 1, and which are more like Olympic type sports that we have, and we've kept that in place. We have other offerings at the schools for other kids to participate, but it is a very intensive monitoring system that's involved. It takes a lot of time to look at these different places that are providing the instruction, monitor it, make sure the kids are attending, make sure the grades are being provided. But that's really why. It's just very intensive, very time consuming.
Thank you.
Any further questions on that item? Can that move to consensus? That item will move to consensus, bringing us to M. The board will consider approving the use of job order contracting as the construction delivery method for this project, awarding the construction contract to the following contractor, and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contract as follows. 1, the 2017 Thornton Middle School Gym Waterproofing Project. Any questions on that? May that go to consensus? All right, that'll move to consensus too. And the board will consider approving the granting of a water meter easement to Barker Cypress Municipal Utility District for water service to Watkins Middle School, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. Any questions on this item? Any questions? Seeing none, can this move to consensus? Thank you. O, the board will consider approving on first reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. 1, DC local employment practices, that's a revision. 2, DFAA local probationary contracts, suspension, termination during contracts, revision. 3, DFBA local term contracts, suspension, termination during contracts, also a revision. 4, DFCA local continuing contracts, suspension, termination, that's a revision. 5, GKB local community relations, advertising, and fundraising, that's a revision. Any questions on that? Seeing none, can this move to consensus? Yes, that's agreeable. Great. Brings us to P. The board will consider approving on second reading additions, revision, or deletions to district policies. 1, DEE local compensation and benefits expense reimbursements, that's a revision. 2, EHBC local special programs, compensatory accelerated services, that's a revision. FEA local attendance, compulsory attendance, that's a revision. 4, FJ local student fundraising, a revision. 5, GE local relations with parent organizations, a revision. 6, GKD local community relations, non-school use of school facilities, that's a revision. Any questions on any of those items? Seeing none, can this go to consensus as well? Great. That will bring us to item Q. The board will consider approving on dual reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. 1, FFA local student welfare, wellness, and health services. That's a revision. Any questions on that item? Seeing none, may that move to consensus? Great, that'll go to consensus. We have 2 other items on our agenda. The district will consider a level 4 appeal, Kamal, of a level 3 decision, and that will be in closed session. And we will not make a decision on that until Monday evening. And S, the board will consider approval of the contract of employment for the superintendent as discussed in closed session. That will also be a Monday decision. Our superintendent's briefing will be Monday night. So I would ask the board if we can go in and talk about S while everything's being set up for R. That way we can have a good use of our time, because that S will be very brief. And so that means we are going to move to a closed session. We will be doing no further business, so I'm sure no one wants to hang around for that.
But before you go into closed session, could I say one more thing too?
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
Just because Monday nights, I never know who's going to be here, but I did want to acknowledge 3 other folks that this is their last week in the district, and I don't know if they'll be here Monday night or not. But Dave Schrant with Student Services, it's his last night after a long career in CFISD. He's retiring. And then we have Carol Oman, a longtime internal auditor who's moving to California and retiring. And then of course Chief Bragg, who's been with us the last 5.5 years. He'll be retiring on June 30th also. So just 3 more I wanted to mention.
I'd like to see all those retirements. We wish everyone the best of luck as they move forward. I know I retired about 3 years ago, and I've really enjoyed it. So I hope that you guys enjoy it just as much as I have. The board will now adjourn after a motion into closed session under Texas Government Code Open Meetings Act for the purposes stated in the posting of this meeting. If the board determines that any final action, final vote, or decision on any matter considered in the closed session is required, such final vote, action, or decision will be taken upon the reconvening of this meeting in open session or at a subsequent meeting of the board. And as I just mentioned, we will do it in Monday's board meeting in open session after all the proper notice has been posted. May I have a motion for a closed session?
Madam President, I move that we adjourn to closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second? Ms. Blackshear, thank you very much. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That's unanimous. And as I said, I'd like us to move to the conference room to discuss S first. Thank you very much. See you guys Monday evening.
Hey, Mark.